My guest for this podcast is Drew Bristow. Now, Drew is somebody I've been trying to nail down for the podcast for quite some time. We almost did it about 9 months ago, but it didn't quite come off because there was a lot of banging in the background from somebody hammering nails and doing something, so we couldn't make it happen. But anyway, Drew is such a knowledgeable guy, great arborist. He's a guy that's got so many different strings to his bow, so many different rope skills, and he talks about all the different expeditions that he's been on. Such a great guy and knowledgeable guy. So I hope you all enjoy the podcast. Thank you for listening. For this podcast, we're very lucky to have Clogger as a sponsor. Now, if you haven't worn the Clogger Zero chainsaw pants or the Clogger Ascend pants, man, these you need to get hold of a pair and just to try them on from friends, colleagues, somebody, because I started using the Clogger Zeros probably like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now, and I absolutely love them. They're so lightweight. They're in really good shape to say they're like a year and a half old. No rips, no torn crotches, like none of that usual stuff that'll happen. Super light. Really nice, even in like as nice as chainsaw trousers can be in hot weather. Super light. But I got the Ascend pants or trousers, I think back in October, so 6 months ago now. And they're a little thicker, so for the winter months, and I've been wearing them pretty much the whole winter, and I actually think I prefer them as, the comfort and design and material and style and everything. I think I actually slightly prefer the Ascend over the Zeros, but now it's kind of warming up again. I'm just naturally going to the Zeros and because they're awesome, but I love the Ascend chainsaw trousers. So if you haven't given them a try, go to wherever you get them from or see if you can. I know it's maybe a bit weird to try one of your work colleagues' chainsaw trousers, so I'm not sure if that'll go down well, but ask and see if you can do it, and I tell you now, you won't regret using them. Like I've used them and absolutely love them, and it would take something pretty special to come along for me to change the chainsaw trousers that I wear, because as we know, they're one of the least comfortable things that we as arborists use and have to wear for our safety. So you may as well get the most comfortable, the best made ones that are on the market, because you're working in them day in, day out. So go to whatever dealer sells Clogger or go onto the Clogger website. They actually do some custom alterations as well if you contact them directly, I believe. So go to the Clogger website and go and see what they have for you. What better way than to tell you about Chip Drop than to do it from a site where I've just dropped some chip. So Chip Drop, which is getchipdrop.com, is a website. It's very, very simple. You basically look on a map view of your local area. You see the little pinpoints of the drop sites, mostly residential drop sites. You read the description. If it's something that you want to drop at and it's close by, then you click to confirm the drop site, go drop the chip, simple as that. And the best thing about Chip Drop is that even if you have like a local dump where you can dump for free, sometimes that can be an hour drive from your job site, and sometimes you might fill up the truck more than once during the day. And if you use Chip Drop to have a quick look if there's a local site nearby or somewhere closer than your regular dump site, it can save you a 45-minute drive there, 45-minute drive back. And as I say, time is money, so Chip Drop can be really convenient. So go to getchipdrop.com and give it a try if you've not tried it before. It is so useful. So try getchipdrop.com. Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I think you
finally doing it.
I know, we finally made this happen. Well, actually, we best not tempt fate, because we got this far last time.
Yeah. Nice t-shirt looking collection behind you.
Yeah. A few people have said that the last couple of times because I kind of basically I've actually used my old competition t-shirts.
I
So
thought you were going to say cupboard.
yeah, no, I finally used the t-shirts that were in the cupboard for
Yeah.
who knows how long. I'm sure it's the same with you because I didn't want to throw any of them away, but you know.
Oh mate, it's a constant battle here. My wife Robin, she's like, "You haven't worn this in 10 years." I'm like, "It's a memory.
Yeah,
Don't you dare chuck that away."
exactly. So now I
But
have
but but, she,
so now
she's also listening in the background, so I have to be careful what I say.
yeah, you can't slag her off too much.
Wow. So what do you want to talk about, bro?
Yeah, man. Cheers for doing this. Anyway, so I've been super excited to do this because of all the arborists I know of and everything, it seems like you've had one of the careers with the most variety of stuff that you've done. Maybe it's just what I know and what I've seen of you over the years, but you seem to have done all kinds of crazy stuff. But let's start with how you ended up in Fiji for starters. Like, because now, for anybody who doesn't know, you're in Fiji. You're basically pruning coconut palms all the time for is it for safety and stuff or
Yeah, a lot of the coconut work we do is there's a lot of films done in Fiji. So I think 2 years ago, as the last figure I've got, I think 70 films were shot in Fiji. So that can be local productions, international productions. But for all the big productions, they'll get risk assessment companies coming over. And if they're filming in a copra grove, looking up, and Fiji tools, it's a breed of coconut here. They're about 35 meters tall, biggest ones in the world. And they're seeing 100 5-kilo bombs that aren't technically attached very well. It's their risk assessment with all the film crew, all the camera equipment. They're like, yeah, all those have got to come down.
yeah.
So we get to go in. We're the only professional company here. We've got got insurance. We've got all the equipment, as you know, and we just go in. And if we say we can do it by June the 6th, then we will get it done by June the 6th. And that's not normal for here, and so that's how we've got a lot of the work that we do. But also, the coconuts, they're the pictures iconic for the island work, but most of our work is just on resorts, pruning trees over villas, over buildings, just keeping them safe, making them look good for the high-end tourists that come into Fiji. And Fiji gets smashed with cyclones for about 4 months of every year. So for most companies, rather than doing, say a month of mad cyclone preparation, we advertise cyclone preparation 12 months a year. So we'll start after cyclone season, pruning all the trees. So then when the cyclones come, the preventative maintenance has already happened. And for the last 2 years, we haven't had one piece of damage on a resort that we work on. So
Oh wow.
it all works out quite nicely. And it's
Yeah.
just doing it properly. It's the same as we're operating like a Western company. With all of our, like, we're using Arborist for all of our risk assessments, all the best equipment. We don't rush. It's all about training as well, just doing a good job. And that's what the resort's like. And so far, we're doing okay.
Yeah, the results seem to be speaking for themselves if you haven't had any issues in the last couple of years on the resorts you do and stuff. So
Yeah, and a lot of it's, like all arboriculture, for customers who've never had an arborist, but they've seen people just chopping trees. A lot of the sales pitch is a bit of education as well, telling them what you do, why you do it. And for people who I can see aren't really on board, we say, let us come and do the job. And if you're not happy, then don't pay. And every time, they're like, oh, can you come back? And can you come back? Can you come back? Can you come back? Because they see the different, and it's hard to describe what we as arborists do if you've never seen an arborist.
yeah.
So we just say, let us do our job and you'll be happy. And yeah, and they are. So
So how did so obviously you're not from New Zealand.
No. So I was born in the UK.
Yeah.
born in the UK in Worcestershire, and then went to Myersough and did my diploma at Myersough College. And the course at Myersough was 3 years, and your second year was work placement. And
Oh,
so I looked, where have I always wanted to go on the planet? And New Zealand. There was opportunity with Asplund in New Zealand. They had a big parks contract in Auckland City, so I went over with 2 other mates. We went over, done our year, worked with some amazing climbers in New Zealand, like James Kilpatrick, Scott Forrest, Prez, Zane, Jono. That's who we were kind of hanging out with and working with. And I went back to England, finished my course, set up my own little company, and it was just hedges, 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 hedges. And then, oh mate, yeah, done my head in. And then, especially from coming from a parks contract where we were just deadwooding oak trees.
nice.
That was it.
Yeah.
Just deadwooding oak trees every day with a killer crew. And then I got the opportunity to go back to New Zealand. They'd sort out the visas, accommodation, flights. So I went back to New Zealand on a 1-year work visa, ended up extending, getting temporary residency, then getting permanent residency, then went out contract climbing. Then we did that, like a couple of volcano trips, which we got a bit of a name for ourselves for at the time. And then we started doing those kind of little adventures, which was taking me away from tree work. And I was kind of getting the bug for traveling out of the country a bit more. And then a company in Hawaii asked me to go and help on a 3-month contract in Hawaii. So I packed everything up. I'm off to Hawaii for 3 months. And I'd always wanted to go to Hawaii. It's kind of a boyhood dream at the time. And on my way over, I stopped in Fiji and bumped into a young lady. And 5 years later, we're married, and I live in Fiji.
Wow. Yeah. So that was going to be my question. How did you end up, from being in New Zealand doing tree work, or, traveling around and doing tree work, and then being in Fiji? Because obviously Fiji, it's quite a poor country, I presume. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Apart from the, like, obviously it has some really fancy resorts, so there'll be the expensive places for like the high end, holiday makers clientele. But I suppose the rest of the island is not.
yeah,
they're on a.
no, exactly. So Fiji does high end tourism really, really well. Like thousands and thousands of US dollars per night. But there's a big divide towards the working Fijian. So it's classed as a third world developing nation. So there wasn't an industry here. But my wife was running a resort here, so I gave up tree work for 3 years and kind of became a pseudo resort manager, trying to run generators and water makers, because I was an arborist, so I'm good with my hands. Even though if I had a problem, I took the chainsaw to the mechanic. I never fix stuff. But when you're on an island, you don't really get a choice to do that. So jumped in to do that, and then after about 3 years, I was like, I need to climb again. And and then we went to Sri Lanka. We went to run an adventure resort in Sri Lanka.
Wow.
Which is a hell of an adventure. But then my wife is South African, but she got her Fiji passport. So we had to come back to Fiji to get her passport to say she was a Fijian citizen. And pretty much as soon as we were back in the country, it just kind of felt like home. And we knew the resorts. We knew it's a service-based industry. And it was like, I'm sure we can make a go of this with tree work. I approached the resorts, and then one of the film companies approached us because they'd seen our website. And from that, we got another film contract, and then training Fiji forestry workers to do tree climbing, because they have 8 guys that do full-time seed collection for their reforestation schemes. So they asked me to train them because they were using spikes and flip lines to go and collect all the seeds. And I was like, no, there's a much better way. So we went in and started training those guys, and some double rope, some SRT. And they were keen. And so we do a little bit of training, a little bit of resort, a little bit of film, and a little bit of fishing. It's all good.
Nice.
It's all good.
Living the life. Yeah, like you obviously you just I don't know, I had the idea and thought I'll make it work, because I suppose it would be quite I mean, it probably helps that you'd been to Fiji for a few years and got the lay of the land. You didn't just kind of go blind and decide you were going to start a business, but like to get your name around to provide a service that nobody is having that service done up until you come along. It must, I don't know, you would think it would be quite a hard thing to establish yourself, but
Oh yeah, totally. When we set up, it was like, who's going to phone us? Who's going to phone us?
yeah,
And then I think through Instagram, like we just put some nice pictures up. And then one resort manager phoned up, so we went and worked for that resort and signed a contract. We'd go, I think, 4 days every month to that resort. You know, take a ferry, go and work for them, and then that resort manager speaks to another resort manager, speaks to another resort manager. You know, and it's very small here. So if you do a good job, you know, then the word spreads, and that's it. Just like anyway, if you do a good job, you generally succeed. But there was a few months of going, who's going to phone us? Who's going to phone us? Yeah, and it exceeded all expectations. So I'm really happy with how it's gone.
yeah.
Yeah.
And now you probably you have enough contracts and enough work just to, like, you feel comfortable that you got work most of the year round now.
Prior to COVID, I would have said, yeah, we're laughing. It's no issue. But of course, Fiji's got complete closed borders. All the resorts are closed. There's no film was being shot here anymore. So we went away on a really cool trip for the last 2 months, just traveling through the islands on a friend's boat. And I was in no rush to come back because I presumed there'd be no work. And then as soon as we got back to the mainland, lots of people sat at home looking at their trees. And then the phone just started ringing saying, hey, can you come and do this, come and do that. And yeah, we've never advertised to the residential market. And now we're getting lots of residential work because people are sat at home. A lot of people who retired to Fiji, so their income doesn't change. So COVID hasn't really affected them. They're just stuck here. And either in their gardens, and they've done some research because they're bored. They find out there's a company that can do it properly. And so, yeah, so we've got a lot of work. Like to this morning, I was working. Tomorrow, a 5-hour drive, going to quote a few jobs, and spend the rest of the week working. Then take a 14-hour ferry to a different island, and then be a week of work there, and then some training for some coconut climbers who, again, they want to do it properly. You know, climbing coconuts in Fiji is no protection, no equipment, just bare feet, bare hands, and just shimmy up. You know, up to 30 meters plus. You know, it's insane.
Yeah,
I'm up at the top of some of them, and I think about it, and it scares me. Like, imagine not having a harness on here. I'm going, how do they do it? And now that there's some guys have seen how we're doing it, and we're in complete safety. If there's hornets up there stinging us, we can just let go and, you know, come down on an ID, a rig, or a VT, just come down to the ground and then pull our gear out. And when people have seen that, they're like, yeah, I want to do it that way. I don't want to do it the traditional way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it was funny that you mentioned Sri Lanka, because I went to Sri Lanka a couple of years ago, and it just happened on one of the days we were pulling in to grab some food, and just to the left I saw this like group of 4 guys, and all looking up this tree, and like one of the guys was up there like collecting coconuts, and he had like a strap around his feet. You'll know what I mean, like to basically get the friction to stand on the strap as he's kind of going up the tree. And I was like, it's pretty impressive. But his tree was only like, I don't know, like 35 feet tall, not 35 feet.
10 meters. It's about 10 meters, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you see it's really impressive. One thing I'd hate to do is stop people doing that in Fiji, because it's an amazing spectacle, you know. And when I see the traditional guys doing it, it's more now for the tourists as a bit of a show, but they'll go up, you know, just completely barefoot, barefoot, no equipment, and they'll go up, they'll get up into the coconut and, you know, kick the coconuts down and then come down head first. They're called the gecko men, and they just come down head first, and they're just using their thighs, all the friction on their thighs, holding onto it, and they'll come down with arms out, just coming down, and it's such a show. That's all. I'd hate to get to a point where we've pursued health and safety so much that they're not allowed to do it without a rope and harness, you know. But that's like, it's kind of a circus show.
Yeah, that's
but
crazy.
but
Do they get like
yeah.
a big audience gather around to watch them?
Yeah, always. It's amazing. If I'm there, I'll stop everything to go and watch them. And they'll, yeah, because I've been on resorts doing coconut work, and they'll go, "Oh, there's Drew in the audience. You know, he's doing all the coconuts. Do you want to have a go?" And I'm like, "No way, no way." It's an amazing spectacle. It really is. You know, and it's that traditional way of doing it that we don't want to force those guys to use a rope and harness, but we don't want guys to be forced into climbing coconuts against their will. You know, they should be given the proper equipment. So that's what we're offering to the resorts. If they don't want to pay for us to do the coconut work, we'd like to go and train their guys, you know, do a one-off training every 6 months, and so their guys can do it safely.
Nice.
Because, you know, they are being paid. You know, it's good for the insurance companies as well. You know, the guys shouldn't be put in danger at work. And a lot of the resorts, they're on board with it. They understand.
Yeah. So when you climb them, then are you throwing a line in like over the top of the what you call the canopy, over the fronds? And
it all depends. It all depends. If we're on resorts where the coconuts have never been spiked before, then yeah, I can throw up to about 25 meters into a coconut it needs about a 16-ounce weight, because you've got to get it to come down.
Yeah, a lot of friction.
But yeah, it's a lot of friction. It does take time. You know, sometimes if we're charging a bargain rate to get the work, you just can't spend that much time doing it. Like, I've seen people using drones, and I'd love to be able to afford it. You know, a drone that can take a good weight to do it that way. So yeah, we can do it that way. Some resorts have got the tree stands, so we'll go and use their tree stands, and you just hop up, and there's no mark on the coconut. But if we go to a resort and the coconuts, like in Hawaii, have been spiked 1,000 times, then I've got no bones about chucking my spikes on and redoing it, because sometimes you can't even see the bark properly. It's just holes all around. So me doing it one more time isn't an issue for me. And then when we do the copra plantations for the film sets, where they are 30 meters plus, there's no chance you'd get me trying to throw line into those, because you can't see what you're over. And a lot of the time we'll have a 10-meter canopy of lower bush, and then 20 meters above that you've got the head of the coconut, so you can't see the ground a lot of the time. So the only way is spikes on, because we'll have to do 30 to 40 coconuts a day, you know, for the big film sets, and that's per climber. So it's a lot of work. So go up one, and that's where using the traverse hooks has become just a boon for us. Go up one big coconut, traverse over to one, stay. It's like a bicycle wheel. Go up the center hub, and then throw over to that coconut. Come back to the center one, throw to that one, come back. And so we'll do like 10 up to 12, 13 coconuts from one. So the spike damage, you're only really spiking up one, going across and maybe putting a few spike marks at the top, and then coming back. You know, and then with foot ascenders, of course, on the spikes, you're not re-spiking up that center one. You just, you know, rope walking back up. That's the way we do it. So we get a lot of people see us on spikes, especially people that have never worked on palms and especially coconuts, and they're like, "Whoa, that's really bad. You shouldn't ever spike a living tree." I totally agree. But when we get to some of the locations we work in, there's just no other option. And when you see the traditional way on the big ones, where sometimes they'll get a machete and cut handholds and footholds out of the coconut, and you see these big steps cut into the coconut all the way up, I look at those and go, I'm sure my spike marks aren't doing anything, you know, compared to that damage. But it really is. It is a contentious one.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you've never seen them, and it's really hard to explain, this is really the only way to do it. If the economy was bigger here and we were charging Western rates and we could go a bit slower, we'd use tree stands the whole time. But it's just sometimes the economy forces of economy here. Just we have to work a little bit differently to the local situation. Yeah.
You got also, like you mentioned, there's a bunch of situations where, you know, the trees are so tall you can't even see what you're getting it over. So at the end of the day, like, safety is so much more important
Yeah.
than a few spike marks in a tree. And it's not even it must be a bit different from like what most people think of as trees, because on palms aren't like the vascular bundles, or like the inside is completely different, so it's not,
Yeah.
it's almost not going to damage it in the same way it would damage any other tree.
Yeah, exactly. Like, often people say, you know, you're nuts. You're climbing just a piece of grass. You know, it's not a tree. It's grass. But it is still a tree, in my opinion. We're still using modern tree climbing technique. It's just when you see the damage, you know, when people walk through the bush here, I always wondered why there was slash marks at the bottom of coconuts. But when you walk through with a machete, it's just a natural thing. Everyone just hits the coconut stem with their machete. You just watch everyone walking through a plantation and they hit it. So when you're tying into the bottom of a coconut and you're seeing all these slash marks and machetes, and then steps cut out of machetes, and you look at your spikes and you go, it's going to be okay.
Man,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of the pictures that you've posted, and Jesus Christ, I don't know how you have the balls on a lot of the time, because I mean, a lot of the time the diameter doesn't really change from the bottom to the top, and they can, yeah, like you're saying, it can be 30 meters up, and you're on like like 12-inch or 15-inch diameter tree, or
Yes.
the
So
entire,
yeah, yeah.
and
Not sure if that works on the camera, but yeah, about as thick as your knee, basically, on the really tall ones at the top.
yeah,
And it's the movement. Like when a little bit of wind picks up, and they'll be going like 5 to 7 meters, just moving like that. You just get used to it. It's just like when you've never climbed doing tree work before, and the first time you go up a tree and you're getting your knees shaking a little bit because you're doing something you've never done before. My first time doing the coconut, I talked it up. Like, yeah, we can do that, not a problem. Went down and was like, oh my God, they're massive. And was just like, well, you've talked it up now, get up there and do it. But then you get comfortable with it. Yeah, it's bending and it's bending and it's bending, but you realize it's a coconut. It's what they do.
yeah.
And you soon get over that
Still,
fear.
like, even no matter how much you tell yourself it's what they do, the higher you get, the more that I don't know, your judgment, or you're telling yourself that must kind of stop at a certain height. You're like, oh God, like, I don't know. It's just me.
Yeah, I find if I look up and I see it moving like this, that scares me. And if I look out, it kind of, I get a bit of motion sickness. So I find the easiest way for me personally is I just look down, because the stem below you is never really moving that much, because that's the most solid part of it, and the ground doesn't change. So I kind of you almost close your eyes a little bit and keep flipping up, and then you feel a frond hit your helmet, and you're like, oh my God, I'm there. Oh my God, I'm there. Yeah, but it's a hell of an experience, and I've been pretty fortunate. I got Sam Smith came over. I think you had him on your podcast months ago. He got Sam over to do some of the coconuts, because we just had too much to do before the filming started. And I must admit, having somebody else in the coconut grove when you're up there, you know, and you're the only person up there, to look over and see someone else doing it, oh, it made it so much more fun.
Yeah, I
You know,
bet.
it just made, and you're just like, if something goes wrong, there's someone that can come and get me now, where normally there's nobody. So that's why you have to take it a little bit more. We have to chill a little bit more, because
Yeah.
if something does go wrong, there is nobody.
And like, as well, I mean, it's the same. It's the same with any tree work. If you've got another climber in the tree, or another climber in a tree next to you, it's like you're almost like sharing the experience, and so it just makes it more fun in general, because there's two of you up there doing it.
Yeah.
It must have, yeah, way more fun.
Oh, it's great fun. When you can see the wind picking up, which is an odd thing to say, seeing the wind, but always next to the ocean. So you see the waves changing, and you see some wind coming, and you're just like, "Oh, look out, look out!" And then you both of you kind of just like, "Way!" And to be able to joke about it with somebody, that takes all the fear away, I find. Rather than being up there on your own going, "Please stop moving, please stop moving, please stop moving." You can laugh with somebody, like in a big tree on a really windy day, and you hear like a maniac laughter from the other side of the canopy. It kind of makes you go, "Oh, it's okay. He's having a great time. He or she's having a great time. Just enjoy it."
Yeah.
But it's a learning curve.
How was it with Sam coming over? Because at that point you'd obviously been doing it for a while. Like, was it almost like funny to see somebody else who's like a good caliber of climber get put out of their comfort zone into palm trees, or did he kind of just take to it?
Well, that's what I was hoping. I was hoping he was gonna like crap himself, and be like, "Wow, this is mental," but he just scrambled up there like a possum and was just loving it. Just love because I know I live in Fiji, so sometimes I have to remember to get someone over to come and do some crazy palm work in Fiji for a film set. It's pretty cool, so to have someone come over and just be climbing and having fun. Yeah, Sam's a wiki climber, so it was just adjusting your pole climbing techniques, like on a big skinny Norfolk Island pine. It's no different to a big coconut. We're just doing lots of them. We just got a whole grove of, there's 1,000 coconuts, D-nut every single one of them. And just there, and it was amazing being up there in a coconut. He's throwing his captain hook over, and he's like, "Is that good?" He's like, "Yeah, mate, that's bomber." So he's doing like a 50-meter traverse at 30, and you're seeing both of the coconuts bending towards each other. He's like, "Are you sure it's okay? Are you sure it's okay?" "Yeah, mate, you've got it. You've got it." So it was great fun, and great fun for me to be able to get someone over.
Yeah.
We get a lot of inquiries for climbers wanting to come to Fiji and give us a hand, which we'd love to say yes to more people, but getting visas for Fiji is really, really hard work. So we normally just can't say yes. But when there's a film production, they do all that work for us. So if we need to get another climber, it's not an issue. Yeah.
Nice. And so tell me if you've had any nasty breakouts with your captain hook while you've been traversing across.
Not nasty, because it's not like a branch where, say, the coconut, the captain hooks moved up the branch and then suddenly the branch just snaps. With the coconut fronds, you normally get a bit of an intuitive feel that frond, that's about to go. So when it goes quickly, but you normally get a second or two to orientate yourself. So when you swing back, you're swinging feet first, and it's not too much of an issue.
Yeah.
So I've had some good ones. Had some good ones for sure. Normally, when you're thrown over, and we can't, I'm using my finger here because it makes it a bit easier. We can't go straight across because it's just too much loading on the anchor points. So normally get halfway and then drop down on your main line, and that again changes the angle. And then you generally go up the rope to the front. Sometimes when that angle changes on the hook, that's when it gets a bit dodgy. But you always get a feeling. You get a feeling of doing it, and when you've done it 1,000 times, you kind of get to know without looking. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Or as I know when I'm going across, that's going to come off. So yeah, it's like everything, isn't it? It's just practice, doing it more and more.
Yeah, I presume and even if you take a swing, probably most of the time you're just going to be swinging into thin air because it's very rare that the stem is just straight up and down. So you might swing, but a lot of the time you maybe miss the trunk anyway, or not.
That's the dream. But you generally do go. You generally do just go straight back into the stem. But it's 5 meters. Like we do some epic traverses, but most of them are like 4 meters, 5 meters, where it's a quick throw, go over, rather than going down 30 meters and back up. They're short throws. So yeah. So I find it harder now doing some of the big trees. I was in Australia just before Red Bull last year with Grant Codes and up a big red gum, and the wind picked up. And you know, trees kind of oscillate. They don't just move in one direction. They do a kind of a figure eight. And I could see the stem moving. And I was like, man, this is scary. I'm fine with coconuts, but now this tree, it was freaking me out a little bit. And it was like, come on, get back in the game. Get back in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just what
Yeah.
you're used to, isn't it? Like you were saying.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't get big tree. We don't get really tall trees here. We'll get a rain tree, monkey pod, Summonia salmon, I think is the Latin name. And they only get to about 15, 20 meters tall, but very flat crowns and just very wide crowns, normally like 30, 35 meter width crown, 100 foot, I think, for you guys. So again, the climbing is completely different with those. We don't get these big spreading open trees for big swings. It's more a case of almost like rock climbing, especially on single line, where you just put in webbing loops, clipping that onto a branch, going across another webbing loop. Because your anchor point, you might be 15 meters on a branch, but your anchor point's only 5 meters higher than you. So it's flat rope angles the whole time.
Yeah.
So just changing your technique for the countries you're working in, basically, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're almost like lead climbing. Like
almost. It's really the only way, the safe way you can do it that I can think of. But again, if the trouble is now living in Fiji, the only person I have to learn off is myself. You know, that's a bit of a struggle sometimes. So you're watching techniques and going on YouTube and on the forums, and that can now be where I have to learn new stuff from. Where before, when I was in New Zealand, just with bunch of amazing climbers, you know, your skill level just increased all the time, and it was so easy to be enthusiastic to go out wreck climbing and just constantly learning. When you're doing it, the struggle here is you're on your own the whole time. So learning becomes quite hard, and also pushing yourself, because if you do have an accident, there's no one to get you. So it's always, definitely dialing it back to 90% or 80%, knowing that, if something goes wrong, I'm pretty screwed.
Yeah.
Hey, island living, it's great.
So do you work with anybody? Is anybody on the ground to like clear up mess for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I've got two guys. One young guy, he climbs, and it's a very slow process for learning, because there's no pressure. Wouldn't ever want to put time pressure on. So yeah, young guy, he's getting good. But I just mean, if I wanted to go out wreck climbing for myself on a weekend, it's always on your own. It's a boating community here, and what I find is people are into boats and yachts. They love diving. They don't like climbing. Ocean people generally, I find, don't like going up to some of the mountains and the hills. So, but I'll go on their boats instead. So, it's all good.
It's not too bad, is it?
Yeah.
So rewind into like before you got into the industry, like what made you go to Myersough? You went to Myersough, did you say?
Yeah, Myersough College up in the northwest of England.
What made you decide to kind of go and do an ARB course and get into the industry?
Well, I was working at a hop processing plant for making beer. And that place got bought out by Anheuser-Busch, the guys that own Budweiser. And so I took voluntary redundancy. And so I got a nice payout. And then I went to work at a little tree nursery down the road from my mum and dad's house. And so I was just learning about grafting and just pruning properly, for all the for the nursery stock. And I was rock climbing on the weekends. And then some of my brother or my mum said, "Hey, have you ever seen tree surgery?" So I just Googled it, or I don't know, I'm not sure if there was Google because I'm pretty old now. I think I went up to Myersough College. They had an open day, and I just saw Mick Cottam, who was one of the lecturers there, amazing climber. I'd never seen it done before. Saw him climbing, went and looked at the chainsaws and about soil science and the tree biology. Was just like, yeah, I can get into this. That sounds great fun. And I had this big check that I'd been given, as my redundancy, and I knew if I didn't spend it on something good, it was going to get spent on something else. You know, so this 3-year course, I just signed up for it there and then. It was just said, yeah, can I pay for everything, all the semesters in one go? And they were like, oh, we don't normally do that. I was like, please take the money now whilst I've got it. Please take it. And just fell in love with it. Just I was with a great bunch of guys and girls on the course. I was just a sponge for the information. Just, it was something I hadn't done before, hadn't seen it before, and just learning how to climb a tree properly. You know, running the chainsaws. I'd never used a chainsaw before I signed up for the course, and so that whole new learning process I just found just amazing. And the safety, working with people and working on crews where, you know, you're relying on each other the whole time. I really enjoyed that part of it. You know, the getting dirty, getting grumpy, and realizing you've got to laugh. You've got to laugh about it, because the job's going to be there. If you get upset, you've still got to do the job. And
Yeah.
so I really enjoyed that camaraderie of, you know, an outside workplace, compared to, like, I've tried a factory before, and, you know, yeah, you get camaraderie, but you're still in a bloody factory. You know, in an office, you're still in an office, but you can't beat being in the outdoors. And yeah, it just struck a chord with me. And the opportunity to then go to New Zealand and travel the world with it was, sign me up. I want to become an arborist. And I think that was 22 years ago now, I think.
Wow.
God.
Do you know,
But,
it's good though, because you probably heard the same thing that I heard. When you first get into the industry, people are like, oh, you know, you'll once you get to your 30s, mid-30s, that's it, you'll be done. You won't be able to, you'll have a bad back, you won't be able to walk anymore, blah blah blah.
mm-hmm.
But now, like, I mean, with the techniques and the stuff that we use and that we've been using now for like the last
Yeah.
10 years or so, it's just like I can't see that that's ever a thing anymore. Like, I'm hoping I should be able to climb, if I want to climb, until I'm, you know, mid-60s.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think one of the issues was, especially in the UK when I was working there, is you get lots of the old boys who, you know, using just taut line hitches, prussocks, you know, free strand rope. You know, there wasn't an easy way of climbing back then. So they were broken by 30, and then they couldn't climb. So then they set up their own company. And so they're like, well, I had to break my back to, you know, get to this stage in my career. So you young fella, you'll do the same, you know, and they keep that circle and that cycle going on. But I think we've got to a point now where that's changed, you know, where people who've been climbing long enough and they've got their own company, they jumped into SRT, you know, maybe just SRT ascent. You know, they weren't hip thrusting up trees anymore. They'd go up on their cam descenders, change over, and then climb the tree. And they're now the company owners. So I think even that phrase of, yeah, you'll be broken by your mid-30s, I think that's had its time as well.
Doesn't it?
And we'll just see climbers getting older, getting more experienced. You know, when you're young, you race around the tree because you've got unlimited energy. Then as you get older, you climb maybe a little bit slower, but you're not wasting energy as much. And I think you actually get less tired the older you get now. Yeah. I know when I was starting out, and we were, you know, when the hitch climber would just come out, and you'd have an amazing days climbing, but you were shattered every day, and it felt great. And then, like recently, when SRT work positioning became the norm, you'd kind of do big climbs and go, well, I'm not even tired, you know, and that just enables you to keep going and keep going. And the way it's developing now is just mental. You know, who knows what we're going to be climbing on in a couple of years' time. You know, it's an amazing time to be an arborist, I think.
It's definitely exciting.
Sorry, we're talking over the top of each other. Especially with, like, when I started, there was a few rock climbing companies, and there was yachting shops, and so you'd go down and get a little hark and pulley and some yachting braid rope. And then you'd see something from a little piece of gadgetry like a Petzl T-block from a rock climbing shop, and you'd start experimenting with all that. But now we've got companies that are purely making tree climbing equipment. And that's there'll be young people now climbing who can't imagine not having all the new like rock exotica stuff for tree climbing, the akimbos, the new rope runners. It's hard to imagine when that wasn't the norm, because that is the norm now. So it's a real lucky time to be getting into tree work, I think.
Yeah, it's crazy with, like you say, because for a lot of the like these big, hardware companies, I think Arb is such a small part of the industry if they're into like, rope rescue, rope access, all that kind of stuff. Yet they seem to be seeing like the growth of the industry, and that they can spend a lot of money into like research and development and making tools that are pretty much exclusively going to be used for Arb, but it's worth their time and money and their effort now to do that. Whereas before, it might not have seemed that way because it was kind of such a small.
Well, I think Arb, I don't know, but it's hard because you're in the industry to look from the outside looking in. But to me, when I see rope access and a lot of rescue, they've had their massive period of development, and now it's done this way. Arb is still finding its feet, so we've still got big grey areas which the manufacturers can kind of exploit to bring out new equipment. Where in a lot of other industries, they've got such hard and fast rules that there's not much ability to innovate, I should say. But again, we're climbing on single ropes, maybe doubled rope. Every work site's different. Every tree species is different. So it's really hard for us to make black and white rulings. You must do it this way. Yeah, but that tree is broken. I can't do it that way. Okay, do it a different way. So I think it's maybe exciting for engineers and innovators and developers, because there is big grey areas that can be exploited. Again, might be completely wrong, but that's how I see it.
Yeah,
yeah, it's a big development area.
and it's so good as well that there are people in the industry like who love just tinkering and trying to come up with new ideas, and because they can see, especially, they've seen Kevin Bingham and how he's basically changed the industry really with the rope wrench and stuff, and they see that, and then I think it's kind of inspired a lot of other people to, like, if they have an idea, to kind of run with it and see what if they can come up with something, and it kind of is like breeding a bit of evolution.
Yeah, I'm on the fence of this. Like what Kevin has done, like wow, completely changed the industry. The rope wrench and the rope runner and the new rope runner pro, just amazing. But my fear, it might be because I'm older and more cynical. I'm not sure, but seeing some developments and some ideas people coming up with, and then people copying it, where they've got no engineering background, they don't understand that it might work in that situation, but if you change the parameters just about a couple of degrees, that thing might snap. And a lot of people, it's having that engineering background and having the contacts within the big companies. If you haven't got that, you can come up with this great idea and it might be perfect, but when it's not perfect, it's really dangerous. So I think for legislators, it's a tricky time, because someone might come up with this cool idea and it just looks like nuts and bolts. But has that M6 nut and bolt, has it been tested to cope with the torque that tree climbers put it in? We do stuff differently, and somebody climbing an oak tree in one country and then someone climbing a pine tree in a different country, I get a bit confused on how to explain this, but I struggle sometimes seeing some of the ideas coming up and going, well, that won't work in that situation. It might work for that guy, but if that carabiner rotates, and it side loads, can it cope with side loading? Because we smash our gear. No tree climber's perfect.
Yeah.
So you always have to look at the worst case scenario. And sometimes if you get good climbers who are constantly paying attention to their gear, they might not ever come up with this issue that a beginner might do, who's more worried about holding onto the tree and not falling to their death. They haven't noticed their carabiners cross-loaded and twisted and something's got funky. So I think we have to be very conscious with gear innovation that it's going to be used wrongly, and it has to have such, that's why our gear has to have such high ratings, because we work in dirty, challenging environments. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always very very hesitant of when new gear comes out. I often just sit back and see what the next 6 months, year looks like of people using it, and I don't tend to like jump in head first and think, oh, I'll get some of this because this is, you know, it's going to be great. Because yeah, I'm certainly hesitant on seeing the results of new ideas being like hitting the market, especially yeah, if it's not got a big company behind it who can do all kinds of testing. And even then, like you were saying, the tree industry and climbing trees is so different from, you know, like going back to like say rope access. It's very kind of almost linear. It's very straight up and down. You have these anchor bolts, and you know, you're rappelling off buildings or off girders and stuff. Whereas in trees, there's branches here, there, and everywhere that you've got to maneuver around and twist around. And
yes, it's that 3D environment of traversing and climbing around a canopy of a tree compared to a 2D environment of going up the side of a building or down a tube. You know, I think that's the difference. We're doing these mad swings, and can that piece of equipment get slammed into the tree constantly? You know, which what we do. It's a tricky one. It is a tricky one. I wouldn't want to be a gear designer. I really wouldn't want to be a gear designer or manufacturer.
No.
Because Arborist, yeah, we can be pretty brutal, and all of our gear, we use it, it gets wet, it gets chucked in a gear bag, gets brought out next week, rope's got mold on it, stuff isn't, you know, carabiners aren't working, chuck a bit of oil in there, you know, get up the tree. Where a lot of more safety orientated industries might go, well, you can't use that, go back to the warehouse and go and get some more equipment. With us, if it's in your gear bag, it's in your gear bag, and you get out to work site and get the job done. So yeah, stuff has to be made to be abused. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, like people coming up with ideas might have only ever worked in like the same environment for their whole career. Like they might not have been like you, traveling around different countries and experiencing different trees, different environments. Like they may have worked in their hometown their whole career and only experienced that one kind of set of weather conditions, the one group of trees that they get
that's
in
it.
their area and that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, no, it's a real valid point. And I think that's why a lot of the manufacturers, they do send gear out now to different people around the world, rather than just at their factory climbing on the stuff local. They're starting to send equipment to people different places around the world and going, well, does this work for your market? Does this work for your market? Does this work for your market? Because it is global. We are a global industry now, and you watch a video and you don't know, is it from Israel? Is it from Russia? Is it from Arkansas? Is it from London? You know, is it from New Zealand? You know, and a lot of the times you're watching people doing stuff and going, that's crazy. Why is he doing it that way? Like, well, if you go to their country, you might realize that's the only way they can do it. And that's perfectly normal in that country. You go to another country and you get shot for doing it. So, you know, I think even social media has to be aware that there isn't just one rule for one country. Everyone does it completely differently. And, you know, like I always go back to coconuts. When I go to Hawaii and they're using I can't remember the name for it. It's a type of cane knife for pruning the coconuts. To me, they're completely over pruned and they look horrible. And if I did that here, yeah, people would go, that's horrible. You can't do that. If I took a Fiji style of coconut and did that in Hawaii, they'd be like, you can't do that. That's terrible. You know, and just that's a coconut in two island nations, and the expectations for the work are completely different. So don't know what I'm waffling about here now, to be honest, but you know, you always have to pay attention that different countries do it differently and they use equipment differently. I remember when I was in New Zealand, we had some climbers from somewhere in the Eastern Bloc, and we were all on hitch climbers, rope guides. We were using the most modern stuff for the day. These guys turn up. They're on single lines. They're using gree-grees. They're doing the whole tree. You're using rad setups to go up, climbing the trees. And we're like, guys, you're crazy. You're crazy. You need to get a hitch climber, get a rope guide, get a foot ascender. And that's tree climbing. And then fast forward 5 years. Oh, single line. That's amazing. And, you know, we thought we were the bomb, telling them that their technique was terrible. And then suddenly Kevin comes out of the rope ranch. We're like, oh yeah, single line.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
You were onto something.
yeah. And yeah,
we always think, you always think that you know the best way of doing things, and then when somebody comes up with some, it seems like a weird idea. I don't know. Unless you're really open-minded, you're like, yeah, my way is the better way.
Yeah, totally. And I've probably shot myself in the foot with the twin rope climbing. I've been very vocal, thinking it's silly, it's stupid. I don't see the point in it. But then there's certain trees, I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. But my point was, if it's mandated that you must climb on twin rope, I think, no, that doesn't work, because every tree is different. But training people as an option. So, you know how to use twin single lines. You know how to climb on the double rope system. You know how to set up a M-rig, V-rig, O-rig. You know, all these different techniques make people a better climber. And again, I think it's from different people around the world coming up with their own problems and their own solutions. And it might not work for you every day of the week, but there's that one job on Thursday afternoon, and you're like, oh, I saw this video, I'm going to try this technique, and it'll work for that tree. So it's, again, having an open mind to what technique is going to work for you, and having fun with it, playing with all the different equipment. And you can't let arboriculture just be a job, like turning up at 9 o'clock and going home at 5 o'clock and go, bloody hell, I've got to go to work tomorrow. You've got to make work fun, I think, because we're outside in dirty environments, and it's not always amazing. It's not great views all the time. But if you can have fun with trying different equipment and different ideas, as long as you're still in a realm of safety, and it makes the job workable, and you can have fun and keeps you wanting to go back to work.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I look at it. Like if it's just a job, the days when it's pouring with rain and it's a bit of a crappy job, you just wouldn't want to be there. Whereas like if you go back every day, think like almost like seeing every day as a challenge, being like, right, I'll try and become better today. I'll try a new technique today. I'll try and become more efficient today. It just like that's how I look at my work now. I'm constantly trying to become more efficient in everything I do every day, and I feel like over the last couple of years, my climbing has improved like so much, just because I'm focusing like so much on efficiency. And I don't know if it's great for my strength and my health, because I'm becoming a lot lazier because I'm becoming more efficient. but like you were saying earlier, actually, like I remember when my first like 3, 4, 5 years, every day I would go home and I'd be absolutely exhausted, and I'd probably fall asleep from like 5 until 7, wake up, have some dinner, then go back to bed, and then to try and refresh for the next day. And like now I can't remember the last time I was exhausted from work, and I'm still doing the same kind of work and still doing similar kind of climbs, similar sized trees, but it's just knowledge, experience, becoming more efficient, like movement and all that kind of stuff. And
it's like our physical toolbox has got way bigger with all this new equipment, and our mental toolbox is getting bigger because people are sharing information the whole time. And you just practice, like we practice a lot of stuff. Well, I especially practice a lot of stuff just at home in the garden, like, watching rescue videos and go, I'm going to set up some reef systems. And then we had to do one for a film shoot. They wanted a camera to come up over a hill. We can do it on a reef. And then we had this dead palm tree a couple of months ago, completely dead. And it was like, man, I don't want to climb that. So we set up a reef system between the two palms. Lower that down to me, cut it, and lifted it over, ran through the garden. And you're going, man, that's easy. How would I have done that 10 years ago without this knowledge, without this equipment, man, I'd have been scared and I'd have been smashing bits in the garden. And then you do this technical job. And then the hardest work is setting the gear up and packing the gear away at the end of the day. That's sometimes the hardest part of the day.
Yeah. And it makes it so much more fun, like when you actually see it all coming together and working seamlessly,
Yeah.
and then you haven't even broken a sweat because all the work has been done for you with the way that you've rigged it and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, one of the things we break a sweat constantly here because it's always over 30
Yeah, of course
degrees.
you do. Yeah.
I was looking at myself going, man, I'm dripping in sweat. I've had to turn the fan off because the fan's too noisy. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm roasting.
Well, I appreciate that for not having the whirring in the background. So when you went and did your like your gap year or your work experience year, did you when you worked for Asplund, were you already working with like the names that you said, like James Kilpatrick and Scotty, or did you just
Yeah,
meet these guys?
they were working for Asplund at the time.
Wow.
Asplund was, there was two companies, Asplund and Treescape. They were the two biggest companies in New Zealand. And yeah, just all the top climbers were either working for Asplund or Treescape. Yeah, there's a few other small companies, but if you're going to lump majorities, that's what people were working for. And then I think when I went back to New Zealand, well, I finished my diploma and I was now running a crew for Asplund, just deadwooding park trees the whole time. This young guy comes over, and this young guy, new to climbing. He was in his second year of his course at Myersough, and it was Matt Glenn. So me and Matt Glenn, Mog, European champion, and that we worked together for a year. And then, I look back on it months ago and I was like, wow, what crews we used to have, multiple world champion, European champion. I never won nothing. Doesn't matter. But, when that's your work environment, your work quality and your climbing quality, you just increase. You're not consciously thinking about getting better, but you're always watching these other climbers. And we were all still young climbers at the time. No one had won anything at that point. But you're just watching people going, yeah, one day that person's going to win something. That person's going to win something. And just an amazing opportunity to be my career at that time with those people. And then Zane and Jono, Dale Thomas, the Kiwi climbers. That was the climbing group at the time. That's who your peers were. And when we'd turn up at the competitions, you'd be egging each other on, and you'd watch someone do this amazing climb, and they'd come down and tell you, "Don't go to the left of the branch, go to the right. You'll save 5 seconds." And I love that camaraderie of you'd be climbing against people, and all you want to do is beat them. But if you do something wrong, you tell them how to beat you, because all you wanted to see was the best climb of the day. It didn't matter if it was you doing it, someone else doing it. So you got to witness and you got to help that person do an absolutely amazing climb, then that's where the climbing competitions really got to me. That camaraderie of just everyone just helping each other, not shying away from telling someone a better route because you wanted to beat them. You'd tell them straight away, come down, mate, don't go to the left, go to the right. You'll be able to swing over way quicker. And you see them do it and you're like, yes, I told them to do that and it worked. And I think there's many sports that happens. And it was amazing. And again, to be there with some of what is now the world's best climbers, especially in the competition circuit, and that's who, again, I've said it before, that's who our peers were climbing with. What a time to be in New Zealand and climbing. That's why I never went home.
Did you when you first started working there, did you realize that these guys are like, they know what they're doing, they're like the top of the top, or because you hadn't really had much experience anywhere else, did you just assume that's what anybody with any experience was like?
Nah, definitely when I moved, I'd worked in England a little bit, and it was all 3-strand prussaks, taut line hitches, maybe a cambium saver if you're really flash. and then turning up in New Zealand and just seeing the level of the climbing. It was just like, wow, this is a whole different ball game when it comes to arboriculture. And I think it was a lot of it was the competition circuit, because again, you go and there's 4 competitions to get to the national championships in New Zealand, which no country was doing that. So you had to go through prelims to get to the nationals. So you just get to meet all the climbers, and they become your mates, and then you go to the pub with them. You're at the pub, you're talking climbing, you're talking pulleys, you're talking friction cords, and it consumes you, completely consumed you, and that was your life. And just, I don't know, did you see these climbers at the time and go, that person's something else? They've got that spark. I'm not sure if you got that so much, but you just knew that you're on the cusp of something. And then when you see Scotty become world champion, see Jimmy become world champion, you kind of like, yeah, that was going to happen. That was going to happen, And if they didn't get it, they would have deserved to get it. So, yeah. So, in hindsight, yeah, of course I saw that. Of course I saw that coming, But yeah, just at the time, you just knew you were with good gun climbers. In New Zealand, from going from England doing hedge work, and you get to New Zealand, and there's people like 15 to 20 years ago using helicopters to do tree removals. You're kind of there as 20-year-old, 21-year-old, just going, what have I stepped into? What have I stepped into? Cranes were normal, helicopters were normal. And before, a big ladder was cool, for a big hedge. And suddenly you're in this whole different world of tree climbing.
Yeah, is it like when I spoke to Zane and also when I spoke to Sam, and they're both talking about like helicopter removals and stuff. That absolutely gobsmacks me, because it only seems only in New Zealand, and I spoke to Zane for quite a bit about it, and it's just so interesting that like it's almost the norm. If you do tree work for a few years in New Zealand, you'll be part of helicopter work, and it's crazy.
It's not normal. Of course, it's not normal work, but you'll get the opportunity to jump on a crew. You might just be on the ground, just watching how they're rigging the slings and attaching the slings and seeing how, because it's go, go, go. And then you've been on a crew and, hey, do you want to jump up and be one of the climbers, one of the cutters? And it's just kind of an evolution of being an arborist, I think, in New Zealand. And like I said, they were doing it 20 years ago. Now it's kind of just par for the course. But 20 years ago, you're still like going, oh, you're using a helicopter to cut a pine tree down? How much is that? Was pushing the levels of safety, pushing the levels of production, and it was always safe, but it was safer to use a helicopter than it was any other way. It's all part of what made New Zealand, like for me, one of the epicenters of tree work at the time.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people that go there, especially like from the UK, and different people travel to New Zealand. So many people stay. It must just because like the work is.
Well, the work's really good. In little things like the traffic signs are the same, the road laws are the same, banking laws are the same. It's virtually the same as being in the UK. But you're just on the other side of the globe, and there's not many people there, and it's a lot more relaxed. But it's not like moving to a foreign speaking country. It's an easy move to do. And as long as you can cope for about 2 years, where of course you're going to miss your family, miss your close friends. If you can do 2 years, then generally you're going to stay for a very long time. But 2 years is the hard bit, because you're still reminiscing about stuff at home that you miss.
Yeah.
But then once people are there for 2 years, then they're normally there for life.
You mentioned earlier about the that volcano trip you did. What was all that about, and how did that even come about?
God, I have to rack my brain now. That was it. So me and John and myself, we knew a amazing cinematographer called Greg Parker, and we went out climbing some kauri trees This was all before kauri dieback disease was a thing. So there's some woods outside, so forest outside of New Zealand, and there are some beautiful kauri trees. And on a weekend, we'd go climbing. So we took our cinematographer friend, and he shot a short little video, like four-minute video of just, it wasn't about cutting trees. This was just about the enjoyment of bushwhacking through the bush, gear bags, you know, close-ups of the ferns, us putting a throw line into the tree, and then all the epiphytes and mosses in the tree. And it was, you know, that side of it. And he made this little video, and Tree Tools, the shop in New Zealand, which I'm sure you know of, they were just running it on one of their screens, just running this video. And so this guy that had been trying to get into this volcano, I think for like 8 years or something, I can't remember now. He was there, or one of his guys was there, and they were watching this video and said, "Oh, who are these guys? Would you reckon they'd be interested to come and be the lead climbers on this volcano trip?" So I was just like, "Yeah, that sounds wicked. I'll do that." No, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I'd never seen the volcano, never really knew about volcanoes, didn't know what we'd be doing there. We talked about sending a zip line into the volcano. Then speaking to Jono Smith, and said, "Hey man, do you want to come with me? I need another climber." So yeah, we went there. We got a boat for like a day or two through the islands in Vanuatu, and then got helicoptered up to the volcano. We took, I don't know, a couple of 100 meters of rope, because that's what we'd been told. That's how deep the actual crater was. And then we sat up there. There's no anchors, so we're digging holes into all the scoria, put in big rated mats down, filling them back with scoria, and then that's what we were tying our ropes into, because there's no rock up there whatsoever. It's too young of a volcano. So then we abseiled down into all the sulfur clouds. I talk with my hands far too much. Into the sulfur clouds, and then we could see this big rumbling lava lake, just erupting constantly. And we got to the end of our ropes. We couldn't go any further. We'd been told the wrong information. We got told it was 300 meters deep, and it was, but by the time we'd put knots in and anchor points, we could only go down like 250. But we found that there was a lovely ledge, and the guy who organized the expedition, he was just taking some amazing photographs. So we came back, and the Daily Mail, like page 2 or page 3, full page spread in the Daily Mail, Daily Telegraph, the Guardian, like New York Times, Britney Spears' website at one point. It was mental. But yeah, we got down, and then I think 60 Minutes in Australia, ABC News, someone else, they financed the next expedition, to witness the first people on the planet that actually ever get into this active volcano. So we went back 6 or 9 months later, and we took about 2.5 kilometers of rope, because we made all the anchor points, but we insisted we have backup lines the whole time. So abseil down in, and then I think we were there for 5 days. And when it rains, there's so much sulfur, it's just sulfuric acid. So it's just melting everything, and your skin's itchy, all the equipment's starting to fail. So we went into our tents. I think we spent 12 days, I think, in the tents. We just couldn't leave. It was just the storm was too bad. And then kind of had this Simpsons moment, like, da-da-da, blue skies. So we were like, right, let's go for it. Let's go in. So we went down in, got to the end of our ropes. I think my main line was 400 and something meters long. My backup line was 600. And I got to the end of my rope with rope stretch just as I hit the bottom. And it was just like, wow, big descent. We had oxygen tanks, heat-proof suits. And then, walked out across the crater up to the active lava lake. It was about 4 football pitches big, and just erupting just over your head. Just red lava, just spitting everywhere, air's shaking, ground's rumbling. Johnny gets out the Kiwi flag, puts that. This is now officially New Zealand territory. We filmed all that just for a bit of fun. Became the first people on the planet to ever do it. And then went back over, and then I'm not sure if you're familiar with ActSafe power ascenders. You just put them on the rope. You got the Ronin, which is the new one. Then ActSafe's a company in Sweden that's been doing it for ages, and they gave us a couple of their devices. So I put the rope on and start going up, and then there was about 300 meters where you weren't touching the cliff face. You're just over this little edge and just going up. And Jono's just hitting me on the shoulder because we were next to each other. We clipped into each other for safety. And he's like, "Bro, look at your rope." And my main rope, where it had gone over the rock edge, it was just this big ball of cotton wool. I'm just going up, going, what is that? Just going up. And it was just as in the wind, as the rope had gone over the rock edge, it had just been severing the rope. And it was, I think it was like 6 internal strands were all that were left. And just got up, just going, please don't go. We had a backup line of an ASAP, but you know, that's a nightmare anyway. But going up, and then it just goes through the device, pops out the other side, and you're just like, oh my god. But yeah, just a hell of an expedition, and yeah, it just enabled me then to go on some different expeditions, doing rope safety, and just definitely moving from England to New Zealand. You know, you could say that's the bug to travel, but once I've been to Vanuatu and traveling through those islands, I was like, man, there's more places I want to see now. So then started going over to the States and doing some competitions in the States, and you know what the industry is like. Hey, I'm from New Zealand, you know, I'm coming over. Hey, come and crash at my place. You want to do a couple of days work, you know? So I started bumming around the States, climbing and meeting different people. Then we set up Explore Trees, started going to South Africa a few times, just had the best time over there. Yeah,
That was with,
pretty amazing.
That was with Waldo, is that right? Is that...
No, Waldo's different. He's got remote ropes. So he definitely does TV work in crazy places, you know, insanely jealous of where he goes.
Who was Explore Trees with? Who did you do that with?
That was with David Wiles. He runs ET Environmental Training Center. So he's gone and got his master's, and he's got a training academy, training people to do tree work. And then Vainand Eshpash, who was based in South Africa. He wasn't a climber. He just we actually were traveling around South Africa measuring the champion trees of South Africa, and he had a champion tree on his property. And so this minibus load of stinking, dirty climbers turned up. Like we'd been out in the bush for like a couple of weeks, I think. And he just put us up on his property, and you know, we were there for a couple of nights, multiple beers, you know, etc. later. Oh, hey, let's come back to South Africa in 6 months' time, and we'll be based with Vainand, and we'll go exploring and try and find some big baobabs. And so we went back, and then decided, hey, let's set up a company here. And then Vainand saw Cape parrots, which is one of the most. So I think it's the most rare parrot in South Africa. I might be wrong, but there was loads of them, and all the rules or what the present knowledge said, you don't get these parrots here. We're like, no, we do. There's loads of them in these trees. I know they shouldn't be here, but they're bloody here. You know, we had videos of it. So then the Cape Parrot project started happening, where we were going over and putting nesting boxes, and every twice a year or once a year, go back and put more boxes up. Africanized bees would take over the boxes, so then we have to go up and try and remove, you know, these boxes. Well, I'm not sure how big they were now, maybe 80 centimeters by 40 by 40. That full of bees and honey and beeswax weighs just an incredible amount. And now you're like, I'm at 35 meters, and I've got to get that box of Africanized honeybees. And just the word Africanized honeybees kind of gives you the, oh my God. Oh, yeah, fully. So yeah, we were doing some of those kind of things over there with that project, and they're still doing that now. They're still on that. And then got asked to go to Rapa Nui, Easter Island, where we were measuring cliffs to see what insects were alive on Rapa Nui, Easter Island. So that was a 3-month trip where for the first month they're measuring every insect or anything that's alive, every animal or insect, measuring it, photographing it, getting a data log. Then it was on the beachfronts to see what's living underneath every rock, because it's never been done before. And then it was a month of going down the cliffs and the caves. What lives on the cliffs? So you got these cliffs which are about 350 to 450 meters deep. And maybe halfway down, you would just get this little patch of grass. So basically, that patch of grass is its own little island. So there might be insects that live on that piece of grass that don't live anywhere else on the planet. So we'd go down there, and you'd be these little sippy pipettes where you breathe in and it traps the insect. You'd take every insect from there, and then it would go back to the lab, and we'd spend days in the lab, trying to identify, no, I've seen that one before, oh, this is a new one. And then that would go over, get photographed, all done scientifically, done properly. So I think we've got 20,000 specimens on that trip. And then all the ones that were identified as new species, they then get written up properly. And then they go around universities around the world. Because, of course, every expert in that field has to go, yeah, that's a new one to science. So that goes around the world. I think that was 4 years ago now. And I think we'll be up for getting some papers out soonish. Science takes a long time.
Yeah.
Getting everything reviewed. But there's definitely a lot of new species, a lot of pseudoscorpions. So it's an animal that's evolved to look like a scorpion. So it's got these pincers out the front, but it's got no stinger, because it hasn't worked out how to make the poison. But everything looks at it and goes, "Oh, you're a scorpion. I'm not going near you." But it's actually not a scorpion. It's a pseudoscorpion. So we found some of those that weren't found anywhere else on the planet. And then in some of the caves we went down into, animals that have no eyesight. And this cave, it's got no connection to anything else. So there's insects that don't live anywhere else on the planet. I think you're 50 meters on the ground. Turned all our headlamps off. I was with another climber from Hawaii, BJ, and he was like, "Check out these roots." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And once you turn the headlamps off, let your eyes get accustomed, all the roots were glowing in the dark.
Right.
And never seen that before. And at the top of the cave, there was a eucalyptus tree. And these roots, the only thing this could be from was a eucalyptus tree. And they were 50 meters. I think it's 50 meters now. It's been a couple of years ago. But yeah, deep underground, all these tree roots and glowing in the dark. Whether they were storing the energy from our headlamps, I don't know. But they were definitely white fingers coming down this cave. So
Maybe it was like
seen some pretty cool things.
Maybe like had little creatures on them that were like, those like phosphorescent.
Yeah, but phosphorescence generally needs to have seen some light. This was
right.
in a cave, pitch black the whole time. We'd never seen it before. And of course, you couldn't photograph it because a camera wouldn't pick up the light. And as soon as you put a flash, you just like, it's just normal tree roots.
Destroy it, yeah.
Yeah. But again, being asked to go to Easter Island, growing up as a little kid, seeing the big rock moai on, in the what's it called, Rano Krakau crater, seeing all these moai as a kid, going, "Wow, that place is crazy. One day I hope to go there." And then to get a phone call, "Hey, do you want to come and be head of safety on a trip to Easter Island for a month? Sign me up." Yeah. Sounds perfect. All from climbing trees.
Does it seem to have like everything, just timing seems to like work out perfectly? Like you go from the Africa trip and then, or do you like, because obviously you don't get bored of what you're doing and be like, "Oh, I need something else now." You like, these offers just kind of come along at the right times and you just seem to be keeping different project.
Push to find them and find out who's doing that kind of stuff. But generally, someone does their research on you as well, tries to find out a little bit about you, does their background checks, and then goes, "Oh no, you'll be sweet." And especially from living on we lived on a very remote island in Fiji for 3 years. Knowing that someone can do that, that if they're going to go on an expedition somewhere, they're not going to be crying that they need Wi-Fi or the water's not hot enough. Definitely that's given me a nice little edge as well sometimes. Being used to living remotely with no hot water and no TVs, nothing like that. So nothing like that. And it's the arb world and climbing world. It's pretty small. Once you get kind of a name for yourself, I suppose, and you meet somebody and they're going to go and do something and they're looking for someone cool to go and do it with, and they go, hey, do you want to go? And I'm fortunate to be able to say yes as well. Running a small little company here, my wife's chill if I get this opportunity to go, as long as it makes sense financially. It's not going to cost me thousands of dollars. Then she's like, yeah, go and have fun. Not working for another company. I haven't got kids. I haven't got a big mortgage to pay. The ability to say yes is quite rare. And that's one thing I do have the ability to say yes.
Yeah, you just
and that would stop, and that stops a lot of people. That I'm sure everyone wants to go and do this, but life kind of gets in the way a lot of the time. You've got responsibilities. You can't just up sticks and go to Africa for a month, come home for 2 days, and then go to Easter Island for a month. It's very fortunate to be able to say yes to that kind of stuff, where a lot of people want to, but they're just not allowed to.
Yeah, just taking advantage of your situation, not being kind of tied down by, because people with families and kids and that kind of stuff. No matter, everybody would want to do that kind of stuff and take those opportunities, but a lot of people can't do it, can they? So
and also there is an added risk factor which you have to take into account when you go somewhere remote, which we're used to now in here. But imagine if you've got kids and you've got a wife and you've got a mortgage, and say, I'm going to go to this wild cave in Papua New Guinea, and we're going to go abseiling into this cave that no one's been into before. What if something goes wrong? That added responsibility of, you might not see your kid, the kids might not see their dad again or their mum again. That's a big factor that stops a lot of people being able to do this kind of stuff. And I think especially now I'm a bit more settled here in Fiji, I definitely question, what I'd want to do now. Where a couple of years ago, my hand would just been in any opportunity. Yep, hands in the air, take me. Hands in the air, take me. Hands in the air, take me. But now I definitely look at, well, is the risk worthwhile? Etc. That kind of stuff.
Now the price just goes up.
That's the thing. That's the thing of these trips. They're so expensive.
Yeah.
Until we get in. We were looking at one in PNG. So I said it before. And it was like, oh, yeah, we'll go over there and get helicoptered into here, and then we'll get supplies dropped off, and then we'll go into these caves and we'll do these measurements, and then we need these spectrometers and these heat things that measure the heat trails from the bats as they're coming out of the caves. Do the sums, like, oh, it's a $500,000 expedition. Right, who's gonna come on? Who's got the money? And they're trips that they aren't sexy. There's not going to be much amazing footage. So you're trying to get suppliers and sponsors who financially might not get any gain from it. They won't sell loads more equipment because you went and done this stuff in PNG. You're kind of just looking for people that go, oh man, that's a cool idea. We'd love to support it. And quite often they'll give you equipment, but then when you need to be financing all your flights and your medical coverage and all those things, it shocks me that loads of these trips happen, to be honest, because they cost so much money.
Yeah. And so you have, do you have companies that you work with quite often that are like get behind a lot of these ideas that you've done in the past? Or
I've been very lucky that way. Very lucky. So Safe Power Ascenders from Sweden. They must have got an email from me back in 2009 out of the blue. Hey, we're off to do this crazy volcano. We'd love to take your power ascenders in. Do you reckon they're good enough? just being cheeky and dumb, not knowing. And Magnus, who the owner, he was just like, yeah, mate, we've got the best equipment. We'd love you to use them. So he sent over, 15 grand each, just shipped a couple over. Said, yeah, go and use them, just be safe. Don't care about the footage, just do it. And then ISC, we contacted them because they were really good at their really industrial equipment. And we're like, hey, we need some really heavy duty equipment. And Wayne Ellis, who used to be the head, he came to New Zealand and I had dinner with Wayne. And he was talking about their equipment they use in the mining industry. And he was like, yeah, some of our equipment will be perfect for you. So he sent equipment over for us to use. Then Yale, when we were going to do some stuff in Africa, just spoke to Jamie Goddard. At the time, the only rope company that kind of had a person you could speak to was Yale. And it was, askjamie@yale.com. So I just sent him an email. And he's like, hey, yeah, it sounds great. So he jumped on board. And ever since then, Yale's just been amazing with us. Then with, what trip was it? Rapa Nui, we needed tripods and a lot of rope rescue equipment. So got in contact with Brandon at Rock Exotica, and they were like, yeah, just ask us what you need. And they just got behind the idea of doing something really cool. They just wanted to see it become a success. Yeah, and you always want to get footage, but there's also that, am I just taking footage? Am I just doing product placement here? Or am I just showing it, as we're using it? Does the product placement get in the way of the expedition? And it's always having those nice conversations with people that understand that, hey, you might not get much footage of your equipment, but we can't do it without your equipment. And generally they've been behind it. And yeah, same with DMM with the tree work that we're doing here, like with the Captain Hook and some other new stuff we've got. The torsion that we're putting on and the sandy, humid conditions, it's brutal for equipment. So that's why doing some stuff with DMM now with their equipment. It just comes down to having nice relationships. And I don't know, I've been quite lucky, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you obviously, you're a very knowledgeable guy, and you obviously your feedback to these companies with what you've been doing with their gear and stuff, obviously they find that valuable enough to to want to work with you and to get your feedback. And so it's I think time has helped. Like you're not one of those people that'll get a bit of equipment and shout about it and stuff. Like you'll actually test stuff and see if it's.
And I think that's the problem with some of the Instagram stuff now. People will get sent some gear and 2 hours later they're telling you, oh, it's amazing, this is brilliant. And you're like, well, it looks brand new to me. Have you used it? I want to know in 6 months' time if it's any good. Just like what you were saying about when a new product comes out, wait 6 months. If people are still raving about that it's the best thing since sliced bread in 6 months' time, probably a good time to go out and buy it. But it's a bit of a angst for me of just when people get gear and they're just telling you straight off the bat it's amazing. Don't do that. You don't get any benefit from it apart from you might get loads of gear sent to you because you're that yes man, yes woman. But the manufacturer doesn't learn anything. Good manufacturers, to me, you should be telling them what's wrong with the equipment, because they know their equipment's good. And then you put it through its paces and go, it's good, but I'm having this issue. And they're like, oh, we've never had that happen. I'm like, well, I'm having it happen. And then that's where everyone learns from it. And also for the end user, if they've got someone they look up to that's saying this stuff is amazing, go out and buy it right now. If they go out and buy it and they spend their hard-earned money, and then 2 months later it's breaking and it's crap, then you kind of just let those people down as well. So if you get some free gear, use it for 6 months and then say if it's any good. Don't tell me it's good straight out of the bag. Because I think a lot of people lose respect for that as well, because you soon start seeing it. You're just a salesperson.
You lose Yeah, for whatever the motivation is, whatever the reason people do that, like as soon as you say something's good, and then the the industry, the masses find out in 6 months' time it is no good, your credibility's down the
Yeah,
pan,
exactly.
and you'll
Yeah,
disappear off into the ether, and
yeah,
nobody will pay attention to what you say again.
yeah. But you got your 15 minutes of fame, and
Yeah.
God,
And
this interview is just making me sound old and cynical.
I
which
feel
I
the same.
suppose, which I suppose I am.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
Like the you'll find those videos on YouTube that are like unboxing an iPhone and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
It's funny, like you'll probably be able to find somewhere like somebody unboxing a bit of tree gear, and I always think to myself, like, why, what what am I what am I getting out of this apart from seeing a shiny bit of gear in a box? Like,
Yeah.
you can't tell me anything about it because it's in a box. So
Yeah. 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 So it works great on a double rope. I've never seen a double rope.
so
That's
I
funny.
wanted to ask, like, all these a lot of these expeditions and stuff that you've been doing, like, that aren't tree specific. They're obviously a lot of rope access, rope rescue techniques. Did you have you just learned this over time, or did you have like somebody who you would look up to and who mentored you through a lot of, like, rope techniques and systems, and or you just kind of picked up and
No,
solved
yeah.
problems with techniques as they came up, kind of thing?
Yeah, mainly just never did any. I've never done any rope access formal training at all. Um, I know going back to when I was saying we were going into like yachting shops and buying bits of equipment to use in our tree climbing. There was a lot of reading yachting catalogs and seeing their setups and going, I could use that. I could use that in tree work. And then seeing some industrial rope access and going, I can use that in tree work. And just constantly reading all these catalogs, and then with YouTube, watching videos, and then just spending time using it and using it and using it. And then going, okay, I can modify this, and I can put a pinto on there rather than that crappy pulley, or I can put, I can just modify and change stuff. And not being boxed in to, I'm an arborist, this is the only way it can be done, is an arborist way. Looking at other industries and taking a little bit from them. Cavers, like on rope, the classic Bible. You just
Okay, it's
constantly
amazing.
read,
Yeah.
having that on your table at night time and just reading that. It's written in the 60s or the 70s, and just going, these guys were so far ahead of their time, and just reading that constantly, and you just being a sponge for all that information. And then the trips we've gone on, like the volcano trip, it was like being able to think on your feet. Okay, there's no anchors. There's no anchors. Right, what can possibly be used when there's no about rescue snow anchors? How people do rescues in the snow when there's no rescue. There's nothing to tie into. It's like, they're burying stuff in the snow. What if we dig out the scoria and we can make that as an anchor point? And just being flexible in your thinking, I think, is primarily the way to go about those situations. And being in situations where you go, right, I've got to make it work. I've got to make this work. There isn't a rule book for me to read on page 52. Okay, do this, clip into that. Going, okay, I have to make this work, and just being able to think fluidly enough to make it work. Because especially when you're in the remote islands and weird destinations where there is no one to phone, there's no emergency services, there's no medivac, realizing that if it goes wrong, I've got to work out a situation to get out of this. And sometimes to me that's the same as tree work as well. A lot of the times, you're turning up to a job and you're like, how am I going to do this? I know, I could set up a reeve system across to that house and then drop it into the garden, or we can get a crane in, or we can zip line, or we can vertical zip line, and I've got to climb across. I can use a captain hook, or I can set up an O-rig or an M-rig, constantly thinking, how am I going to problem solve? And I think if you can problem solve in tree work, then pretty much most of rope-based problems, you'll be able to work out a solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got to have those other rope-based knowledge, that knowledge base, to be able to problem solve in tree work as well. Because I think if you only stick with what you learn as an arborist, like within tree work, you're missing out on so many rope skills, like
Totally.
outside of the industry. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree fully. And then, you mentioned Waldo before with his knotcraft and knotology. Seeing him tying these knots, and you're kind of like, wow, I know nothing. And you see this person who's just a wizard with ropes, setting stuff up, and you're like, right, I want to learn more about that. And so going out and getting books and downloading, anything about ropes, about how to tie different knots, rather than I can do an alpine butterfly, I can tie a Blake's hitch, and going, yeah, I know ropes. And then getting a book on knots and going, wow, I know nothing, and admitting that you know nothing. And right, I'm going to have to start again. I'm going to have to refresh and relearn.
Yeah. So how do you know Waldo? Are you?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. I've just...
for some reason I thought there was a connection, but I was obviously thinking of David, because I thought Waldo was the one he did the Africa trip with. But
no, I just again through certain people on Instagram, and the gram is a part of our lives now, whether we like it or not.
Well, it's amazing for you know, the knowledge you learn, and for connecting with people on the other side of the world. And
so seeing just watching his knotcraft and just following him and seeing some of his posts, you're like, wow, he's a really inspirational character, and is sharing his knowledge. Same as like Richard Delaney in Australia, especially over the COVID, doing 30-second videos every day. And you're just like, wow, you know so much that I didn't even know I should know, and look, and big thing is admitting that you don't know nothing, you don't know anything at all. And there's other people that are demons in their field, and seeing those people share the information. I think it's nice that people aren't, that's my information, and you can pay and I'll give it to you. But now people are going, no, I'm happy to share my information. I'll still do courses, but people just giving all this information out, and the ability to be a sponge for that information. It's a great time. Yeah. It really is.
It's funny you're talking about these other people in their industries making you feel like you know nothing at all, because I remember quite early on when I first discovered Arb Talk, which is a forum, and you were on there quite a lot, and I think I quite quickly realized through like reading a bunch of your posts and replies to other people that like you knew what you were talking about, and like sometimes I would read your comments and they seemed a bit blunt, but I think they were blunt because you knew the answer and you knew what you were talking about. You knew the right way to do something, and that kind of came across. And the more I read, and I was like, God, so I learned a lot from you just from reading, like, threads and comments and stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's cool to hear. That's cool to hear.
So it's the same thing, like, anything when you start learning something from somebody who obviously knows a lot more than you, you're like, you have to realize, I know nothing.
Yeah. And I must say, with Arb Talk, what I've realized years later when I read some of it, exactly what you just said, it was just like, that person has just had their dinner in England, because it's UK based and I was in New Zealand, and they're just asking this question, and it's my phone or my computer beeps and it's 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm on my way to work, quick answer, type,
it's like,
and then go back and go, I've been a bit of an arsehole that day, wasn't I? But and then I think when you're young as well, you kind of do think you know everything, and you're like, stop asking me that stupid question, and just go, that's the answer, deal with it. As you get older, you realize that you don't have to be an arsehole. People are asking you a question, they're asking you because they don't know, and people don't scroll back. You might have answered that same question 10 times, and they don't scroll back and go through all the questions. They go, oh, I'll ask this question. And you just go, now read the bloody comments 10 pages back. But that doesn't happen, and you realize that as you get older as well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well, I mean, that's the day and age we live in. People don't want to scroll down 3 comments, let alone like 10 previous pages and stuff, do they? So they just want the
and
answer.
then you have,
want somebody to feed
and I'm
it.
sure,
Yeah.
and I'm sure, as you know, with climbing Arborist, people look up to you. So also remember, don't be an arsehole to that person. They're asking you a question, and sometimes you have to like rein yourself back in a little bit and then give a nice polite answer, or please refer back. You can't just type because you become an inspirational figure to people. So you kind of have to be good, because people look up to you.
Yes, like it's hard with the internet in general, because you don't know, like you can read something one way and the other person on the other end of the internet on their computer could be typing it with a completely different kind of tone, mindset, question. But so it's a lot of the time it's how you read it, and sometimes maybe you need to read it a few times to not have that instant reaction of like getting angry. So it might be written,
they're asking you a personally innocuous question, but they've typed it, they've put the and in probably the wrong direction or wrong position, and it completely changes it. So quite often, if I get a question about gear, I'll just do a private message with someone and go, hey, I didn't quite understand what you're asking. And then you're like, oh, all becomes clear now. Now we've had a conversation rather than just, a 15-letter soundbite. You've had a proper conversation. It can actually be really helpful.
Yeah.
But some of the short messages, and it's like, oh my god.
do you know what, actually, when you messaged me the other day, and because you were driving, you did like a voice message. So because you did that, I then did that to a friend of mine, because I was driving and I had like a bunch of time. I was like a 45-minute drive, so I messaged like a few people, but did it like the voice recorded. And I was like, this is going to be such a good and easy way to like communicate with people, even if like you don't know the person. Send them a little voice message, and you can.
It's so much more personal as well. So much more personal.
Yeah, and you can get the exact like question and points across, and find out what they want, and explain your line of thinking. And then if they do the same to you, you can kind of hear their issues and what questions they've got. And I think from now on, this is the way I'm going to proceed. All because of that message you sent me.
I was just driving, and Fiji can be quite crazy driving, people running out in front of the cars. I started typing, which I know you shouldn't. Started typing, and I was just like, nah, hey bro, I'm driving. It's so much easier. And also, time differences. People, you can hear if someone's awake and asleep. Well, not asleep, but it just makes it easier with time differences as well. And it's a voice call, I find.
Yeah, definitely. Right, I'll leave it to you.
I can turn the fan back on.
Yeah, you can cool down a little bit.
I'm looking at myself. I'm like, I'm so red.
You're like, I'm gonna have to wash all these clothes. And
it was like that was my second day back at work we had 52 days at sea. So today was my second day back at work. So I rushed back in through the door, got changed, and was like, oh my god, I'm hot. I better turn that fan off. Oh my god, I'm roasting hot. Please say you can't do the interview. Please say you can't do the interview.
Yeah, just keep checking your messages for me to cancel you.
I would never do that, Dan. But no, mate, it's been really cool catching up. I know we've been trying to do this for months now, but quite often I'm moving between the islands, and I never know if I'm going to have good internet at hotels and on different islands. So it's been good to persevere and finally get through it.
Yeah, it must be.
Thank you for having us.
It'd be interesting to look back and see when we actually arranged that time before. I'm thinking like 6 months ago we maybe tried.
It was before Red Bull.
Oh yeah, it was way back. It was actually quite a bit before that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's probably 9-10 months ago.
Yeah.
Fiji time, mate. Fiji time. Island time.
what's funny as well is that like we'll have to do this again because I have so many more questions for you, but I don't want to take up the entire day.
That's all good.
So yeah, no, but I appreciate you doing this, and
I
yeah,
think it's high time someone turned the tables as well, and someone does a big interview on climbingarborist.com with Dan. So asking you why you set it all up. Well, you might have done this already. I'm not sure.
I've kind of talked about it a little bit here and there, but
A full probing interview. The whys, the wheres, the where afters. What went wrong? What made you do it? What made you start? What's your favourite bit?
Would I go back and do everything?
Would you do it again? Would you do it again? What would you do differently? No, good fun, man. All right, dude. Well, you take care over in Canada. You are in Canada, hey?
Yeah.
Sweet. Whew, that was lucky.
Yeah.
And I'm going to jump in the pool because it's roasting hot.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah, mate. Oh, mate. Well, yeah, like I said, appreciate you getting this done. It's been great fun. And let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, awesome. Cheers, Drew. Much appreciated.
Awesome, buddy. Have a good day.
Nice one. You
Bye.
too. See ya. Thanks very much to Drew again for giving up some time and to chat all things ARB and all these expeditions and all that kind of stuff. Awesome to hear what he's been up to, where he's gone, the different expeditions he's been on and the crazy stuff that he's been doing, climbing in volcanoes, all that kind of stuff. Such an interesting guy and such a wealth of knowledge. So thanks very much again to Drew for joining me on the podcast. This podcast was sponsored very kindly by Chip Drop. So go to getchipdrop.com and find a place for your next load of wood chip. This podcast was also sponsored by those awesome guys and girls at Clogger, a New Zealand company making personal protective equipment for arborists. So go over to the Clogger website and check out all the different products that they make for our industry. Like I said at the beginning, their Clogger Zeros and the Clogger Ascend chainsaw protective trousers are absolutely awesome. Both of those pairs of trousers are ones that I wear personally and absolutely love them. Can't see myself using different chainsaw pants anytime soon because they've stood up to the test of time. Nice and lightweight, and so thank you very much to Clogger again.